It's 6 o'clock. I'd like to call this Board of Public Works meeting to order. First order of business is roll call. Alderman Husaf Hussein is excused. David Wozniak. Here. Clark Johnson. Here. Jonathan Webster. Here. Charles Porter, myself, I'm here. Ken Skowronski. Here. Becky is no longer a member of this board, so she is not with us. She took a position on another one. Jim Witt, welcome back. Also present is City Engineer Glenn Morrow. Here. Highway Superintendent Kevin Schlueter. Here. Assistant City Engineer Tyler Beinlich. Okay, got it.
Mr. Chairman and Board, I'd also like to introduce to you Ali Al-Qayyum. Ali has been a technician in the engineering department for going on 4 years. So you'll probably start seeing more of him. I've asked him to start attending, so in case, like tonight, I thought I was going to be gone, but in the future, should Tyler and I be absent, we're going to invite Ali to join us.
Very good. Thank you and welcome. Okay. The next order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The next item is reading and approval of the minutes of the April 9th, 2024 meeting.
I'll move to approve as presented. I'll second.
Okay, motion by John Webster, seconded by Clark Johnson. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. Okay, and one abstention. Thank you. And that would be David Wozniak. Woznicki. Thank you. Next item at 6:02 is the public comment period. Seeing nobody for the public comment period, we'll close the public comment period also at 6:02. Next item is unfinished business. Item 5 is, unfinished, no. Is there any unfinished?
Nope.
No unfinished business. Okay, thank you. Next item is new business. Request for removal stop signs on Sharon Lane, 39th Street.
Come up here. I'll let the citizens introduce himself, but go ahead and have a seat. He contacted the engineering department and asked if we would consider removing some stop signs. So let me set the stage here. This is between Putes and Drexel, between 51st and 27th. Zoom in on this neighborhood. I believe it's called Friendship Park. Right here's Friendship Park. So there is Sharon, Anita, 39th Street. And if you look in your packet, there is actually an exhibit that shows where all the stop signs are in the neighborhood. And after doing my evaluation, first of all, the police department, I asked the police department for their opinion. You can see, based on the location of stop signs, he has a feeling they were probably placed there at the request of area residents in an effort to reduce speeds in the area. The police department doesn't have a strong opinion either way. I spent some time out there one afternoon looking at it, and it's like watching paint dry. There was absolutely zero traffic that I could witness. I imagine probably most of the day is like that. Most of the traffic it sees is probably in the morning. Maybe you might have some cars going maybe from west to east, but there's very few traffic people that would have a need to enter this issue. I did ask the alderwoman her opinion. Wait, let me back up. So I guess if you were to ask me, I would say that it's probably not needed for a three-way stop. There is a stop sign at all three legs right now, and I would, if you wanted to do a brand new subdivision, I would support removing these two and only having one from 39th Street. I solicited the alderwoman regarding that issue. She's the first of the police department and Board of Public Works for your recommendation. And she's in agreement with me that should you decide that that's worth considering, I should probably solicit the neighborhood and talk about it. So the other comment I have to make in there is that although we don't place stop signs for slowing speeds down, they do have that effect on people. And so the concern is maybe if we remove those stop signs, then it might increase speeds. But to further discuss why stop signs are possibly eligible to be removed, could you introduce yourself and give your side?
Good evening, gentlemen.
Could you speak closer to the phone?
Good evening, gentlemen. My name is Robert Perantoni, and I live on Sharon Lane, or right where the word Sharon is, basically 3952. And the stop signs we are talking about, to be honest with you, it's been a comment with other neighbors. Occasionally we get together, we talk, what are those stop signs there for? 39th Street comes to a dead end. It comes to an end right there. A stop sign there is good, but Sharon Lane is a through street. It has a stop sign on both sides, one on 36th Street and 42nd Street. If you look at all the other streets, Forest Hill Avenue, there's Lakeview Road that comes into it that doesn't have an all-way stop sign. 36th Street does not have an all-way stop sign. I could go on and on. I lived there for 38 years, believe it or not. Why am I bringing it up now? Because I was younger then, and I had other things to think about. and now I'm retired, and I talk with the neighbors, and the question comes up, and I thought I'd bring it up to the council here, to the Public Works Commission, Mr. Morrow. I don't see any reason. 25-mile-an-hour speed limit is in the neighborhood. All of those streets are 25 mile an hour. 42nd Street goes from Acre, I think, all the way straight through. All the existing streets have stop signs. So that's all I can really say. And as long as I'm talking about this, I would like you to consider one more thing here. Doing my research, I noticed something. Friendship Park, that's basically where I live, okay, close to it where I live, okay? Two streets north, there is Jack E. Workman Park, okay? If you walk from 35th Street west, right about there where the arrow is, there's a sign. It's a caution sign. It says slow, children. I love it. It's great. But coming from going east on the same spot, there is no slow caution sign for children. Maybe that should be considered. But getting back to my removing stop signs and the comment of maybe speeding, cars speeding, I don't believe they're going to speed. It's 25 miles an hour speed limit. Maybe since Friendship Park is there, maybe you might want to consider putting a slow children sign there on both sides, east and west. But Jackie Workman Park only has one sign going west, doesn't have one coming east. I think that should have it.
Yes.
That's all.
So before Jack Workman Park is discussed, I guess I'd remind you that's not on the agenda, so we got to be real careful about not veering too far off the agenda.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. So as an example, so let's use that as an example. So the reason why slow children at play, actually, we are in the process of removing slow children at plays everywhere. It's a federal highway thing. They've told us to quit using it, so we're trying to phase those out. We should have phased them out probably 20, 30 years ago. So having said that, I would not support putting the slow children play up in to replace the stop signs per se. So
I just thought I'd mention that one.
no, it's a good question. So
Gentlemen, that's basically the only request I have, I would be very happy if that would pass, the conversations would end, and finally, we don't have to come to a stop every time we have to go to and from the house on Sherman Lane or the neighbors.
Well, thank you. For discussion, anybody have any thoughts or feelings they'd like to share? Mr. Webster?
Well, removing stop signs is something that this board looked at. Let's go back historically. We created the placement of stop signs. The warrants to place a stop sign was put in place. I'm thinking like 1999-ish. Okay, and when that was done, because I was on the board at that time, we also looked at how to remove a stop sign. You have a lot of issues when you remove a sign like a stop sign. People who live in the neighborhood expect the stop sign to help them. I don't think it does in this particular case. I agree with you, these signs are probably not well placed. But removing a stop sign creates a liability on the city, because there was a reason that they put the stop sign up at one point. Once you take that stop sign down, God forbid something happen. How do you, the first thing a lawyer is going to take you to court and say, you had a stop sign here, now you took it down, now we have an accident where some kid on a bicycle got hit, and they're going to come back with liability on the city because we took it down. That was why we never generated a how to remove a stop sign, because liability-wise, we couldn't come up with an argument for doing it. And that was 25 years ago now that we had that argument. But so we never put into place a way to remove a stop sign. We have discussed, and I've seen it happen like once or twice when you've had a rebuild of a road, okay, and maybe traffic has moved, and so that since there was a rebuild of the road and you had a shutdown of that road for a period of time, then you had a new traffic pattern and you could argue that it was useful. But just to come in and remove a stop sign, I personally think, although in this case I would support you, I would not put one up there. Now that it's there, we've generated a liability for the city that I don't think we can get around. That's my comment.
Thank you.
So, valid questions. I guess I would suggest, and again, I'm not trying to campaign either way, but if I could be an advocate for the resident, in this situation, you have a very limited number of people that actually use a stop sign. So it'd be very easy to educate them that, hey, we're going to take the stop sign away. For the instance where maybe someone, I don't know, suppose someone comes to Friendship Park a lot, and they're used to, driving this and going back this way or something like that. Maybe what you may do for the next year or so, underneath the stop sign, we might put a placard that says cross street does not stop or something like that, with the little orange flags. When the orange flags disintegrate and ready to be thrown away, we can take the other placard down. Everyone should be used to the fact that that's the normal traffic pattern. But I don't see a lot of through traffic. So if we were talking about Forest Hill or 35th Street, where there's a lot of through traffic where people get used to, I would say, yeah, that's really dangerous to take that away. In this situation where you have such a limited number of homes that might use it, on the rare, again, I sat out there for a while, zero traffic. It's even if someone did run it, I can't imagine that the chances of hitting someone are very great.
I'm not going to disagree with your comment. This is the argument that we talked over 25 years ago, and that's where we came from. That's the conclusion we drew at the time. And I personally can't figure out a way to get around that argument in my head. Thanks.
Mr. Weber, if I may say something about your thoughts in case of that accident that you mentioned. First of all, a police officer would look at the situation. Yes, the city did remove the stop signs. Technically, the way I look at it, and I may be wrong, the city can do anything they wish. Okay, we pay taxes, and the city can do it. Technically, you have not, the city, us, have not broken any laws because the 25-mile-an-hour speed limit exists. The stop sign on 39th Street exists. People that drive down Sheeran Lane, like myself, have to be careful of children on their bikes. The whole neighborhood is like that, sir. And I understand what you're saying. I don't see how liability in court could say, well, you removed the stop sign. Yes, you removed the stop sign because it wasn't needed, and we drive up and down there. We have to put our brakes on, have to put our brakes on, coming back. You want to talk about a little bit of gas consumption? I've been doing this for 36 years, me, and that's not including everybody who lives there. So I'm saying, sir, if I have any chance at all of making you understand how I feel, I said all I can say, and whatever happens, happens, but I feel that it is not a big deal to remove those stop signs.
Thank you. If I might comment real quick, I like Glenn's suggestion about putting on the stop sign by 39th that cross traffic does not stop. And I do recall seeing those signs on other intersections. And I also agree with the fact that this being a residential, I don't know the terminology for the particular street, but it's not a through street.
It's a local
It doesn't
street.
really go anyplace, pardon me?
It's a local street.
Local street. It doesn't really go anywhere, so it doesn't service anybody other than the residents of this particular neighborhood, the residents on the street. The suggestion was also made about possibly polling the neighbors. Is that correct?
Yeah, and the alderwoman's very strong opinion that should be done if we decide to, whatever your decision, it would be good to poll the decision. So, maybe what you want to do is direct me to poll, say, the residents along Sharon from whatever street that is to whatever street that is on their opinion of pulling that. And then maybe discuss it next meeting based on the feedback you get.
Well, I like that idea, and I guess we could entertain a motion to do that if somebody would like to make one.
I'll make a motion to direct city staff to poll the residents along Sharon Lane.
Sorry, could you hit your...
At the mic, yeah. The little mouth, right there, right where your finger is. Is that? Yeah. There you go.
Sorry about that, Glenn. I'll make a motion to direct city staff to pull the residents along Sharon Lane up to the intersecting streets.
From 36th to 42nd.
36th to 42nd, thank you. And hopefully have it back here for next month's meeting. If you could put a due date on it.
Yeah, I think we can do that.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion by Ken Skoronsky. Mr. Webster?
If you would amend your motion to include 35th Street from Anita to Sharon, then I would second it.
I'm sorry, 35th?
Is that 39th? It's
39th.
39th Street. I'm sorry, 39th.
39th from where?
From Anita Lane to Sharon Lane.
Are you saying to take the stop signs out of there also?
No, I'm saying to
poll those
to
people.
poll those to
okay.
include in the poll the people at that street.
To survey those residents
Yes,
also.
because those people come to that corner.
Actually, well, so before you vote, I guess I did think about that once upon a time, but notice that these two homes up here, they both enter onto Anita. They don't really use 39th as their driveway. The only person that uses 39th as a driveway is someone who would be polled in this request.
Well,
Let's take care of the motion first, please.
then I would second the motion with, as is.
Okay, thank you. Then the motion has been seconded by Mr. Webster. Under further discussion, is there something you'd just like to add real quick?
One more quick item.
One quick. real quick.
On, at the end of, north of, on 39th Street to Forest Hill,
Yeah,
one stop sign. That's all I can say. Why on the other side?
right. No, I think.
That's all I wanted
Yeah.
to bring up.
No, very good,
That's
thank
it.
you.
Thank you,
Yes,
gentlemen.
the picture in there.
All right, so we have
Thank
a
you.
motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by, what?
May I add one more question?
Okay.
Can we also include to direct city staff to ask the city attorney about the possibility of liability for this scenario? I think that us
I-
acting on this without any advice legally would be,
Okay, number one, we're not acting on it, we're polling.
okay?
So we haven't made a decision to remove the signs at this point.
Okay.
All right,
And I can talk to the city attorney
That
before
that
this.
would be
Yeah.
helpful, thanks.
so, but I'm dealing with the motion on the floor at this moment. So we have a motion, it's been seconded. Is there any further discussion regarding the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it, and hopefully this will be on next month's agenda with the results from the poll, and we will deal with it
Gentlemen,
then.
thank you for hearing me. I appreciate it. Have a good evening.
Thank you, you
Thank
as
so
well.
much. Thank you, Mr.
Yep.
Monkey.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is rewrite of Municipal Code 19-9C. And Glenn has a presentation he'd like to make regarding this.
So the title is 19-9C. So if you were to get on the city website, look at our municipal code, 19-9C is where procedural steps by Board of Public Works. Having said that, I should probably retitle it as just 19-9. It was brought up that the city should get back to this procedure. I don't know when the last time this procedure was used, but I understand it's literally been decades. So I wasn't aware of it till it was brought up to my attention. And if you look in your packet, you'll see a couple pages where I've made comments. So as far as comment and so forth, this is just my comments looking through the existing code as is. We had a little discussion last meeting. I was trying to prepare you to start thinking about it. So if you look in the packet, you'll see a page where circled at the top is proposed 19-9, and this is what I am proposing that we change it to. So I want your thoughts on it before I take it to Common Council. Notice, so first off the bat, in addition to recommendation of City Engineer and Board of Public Works, I am adding the Parks Commission and the Water Commission because they do a lot of projects themselves or instigate a lot of projects. I shouldn't say problems. Projects that we should be considered. So, say the Parks Commission should decide that we want to build a new pickleball court or something, then they would basically make that recommendation to the Common Council. Also in there, I put a clarification. So number 4, maintenance projects performed by Department of Public Works or Franklin Utilities that fall within the operating budgets of adopted. Basically, if it's in our budget, Common Council has a right to request that any of these projects follow the process if they're significant, that we can go ahead and do them, but Common Council does have the authority or the right to request that we back up and go through this process. So typically we go through a lot of discussion preparing the budget for this next year. And when that happens, projects that are on the table, let's use the pickleball. Do we or do we not need a new pickleball court? We'll have that discussion. That'll be discussed at Finance Committee. It'll be discussed at Common Council when that comes through, and then it gets approved up or down. So, however, Common Council could say, start back at the beginning, go through the entire process. But I would think if you go through that many discussions and that many meetings, kind of ties our hands to have to start back at square one. So we could proceed on those projects if it falls within those parameters. Notice number B, Common Council action on adoption of the motion to consider the project. Common Council shall, so it's required, direct city engineer to further study a project and develop the project, and then may direct involvement from one or more of the respective committees as follows. So Board of Public Works, Parks Commission, Committee of the Whole, and Finance Committee. So again, shall, I guess myself or whoever would be my designee, I guess. Basically, because this is typically how a project happens anyway. We get involved, and I would do this. So get down to C, procedural steps by city engineer and or applicable committee shall study or develop a project and consider the following issues, and then I put where applicable. Now, that may seem redundant, but where I say applicable twice. But if you notice, it says procedural steps by city engineer or applicable committee shall study the project. And the second part is when you look at the following list, we don't have to necessarily do all of them. We just hit that where applicable. Probably the one thing I added was number 4, solicit input from the public through neighborhood meetings, mailers, or other suitable public outreach. Such outreach efforts shall include coordination with the alderperson of the affected districts. Everything else on that list was regurgitated from the current version. Number 7, recommended list of benefited properties. So that's something new that I've added. And recommended method of assessments, including but not limited to, and do that. Pretty much everything else in here is from the current one. I just kind of reorganized it. So hopefully we had a discussion last meeting, so you started thinking about it. When you saw your packet, I was kind of hoping that you had some thoughts that I could incorporate before I take it to Common Council for a suggested change. Any thoughts or suggestions?
Thank you. Does anybody have any comments they'd like to share regarding this?
And to refresh last month's discussion, I just felt like the current method is redundant, it's circular, and it just seemed to really stall if we were to follow it to the T. And I don't want someone to accuse us of not following our processes. Shall I assume that you like it as is?
I have no comment.
And I looked through it, and I don't have enough history with some of this stuff to have a question pop up in my head, and I do agree with your, should we say, cleaning it up a little bit? Makes it a little easier to follow. Anybody else have any thoughts on this? No? So are you looking for just...
So I'm looking for a motion to support these recommended changes as presented.
All right, then hearing what Glenn's looking for, does anybody want to make a motion to support these changes? So moved. And you'll second it. So the motion was made by Clark Johnson and seconded by Jim Witt. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, everybody in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. And thank you, Glenn. All right. So that's item 6, right, on the agenda? No.
There's nothing on item 6.
Okay. So then the next item is future agenda items. And what comes up on that is parking on Swiss Street. We're not going to act on it tonight, but we have some history you want to go over with us?
Yes. So in your packet tonight is an email that I received from a resident, and they're asking that we consider the parking situation on Swiss Street. You can read their letters. They have several pictures with people parked, and it's tough to get through, and discussion that they can't get ambulances through, and so forth. So I will tell you that I have started looking at this, and I will tell you it's a cluster. Best I can tell, when I read the no parking in the city code, it's not as posted out there. So in addition to that, there's lots of unique issues. We have talked in the past about parking up here on the corner. There's the bar. We did allow someone to park here, but it's on the inside of the radius, I think, is why we decided to do that. In addition, you have parallel parking in front of what would be considered parking for the store. And in fact, we don't even block off parking in front of the alleyway, which, how can you really how can you technically block that? There is some issues that there's discussions on which side you can park during, or are restricted during, on Sunday mornings. And I think we actually have it signed on the wrong side. I did some research and we couldn't find any. Mr. Schleter thought that there might be something previously, and Debbie couldn't find anything related to that issue. The only parking issue she found was this issue up in here. So having said that, I just want you to be aware of the issue. We don't need to discuss it tonight. If you have any comments for me to consider in my evaluation, I would welcome those, but my evaluation isn't done yet. It's, like I said, I've opened a hornet's nest, I think. So, don't care what we do, but we probably need to clean up somewhat. So again, this may be an issue where maybe you're going to come back and say we should really pull all the residents, not just one or two residents. And there's a couple businesses up there that are affected too. So, unless you have a specific question or something you want me to search, this is not really a topic for tonight. I want a lot of discussion on, but I'm interested in hearing your thoughts if you want me to look at some specific issue with this.
Okay. Ken Skowronski?
Nope, we were on.
Just one comment, Glenn. I live 3 houses away, and all those vehicles that are parked there are from one family. It's a very large family. So thought should be given that if we do put no parking signs up, it's only going to be directed to one family along the street.
Would you support me pulling the folks on Swiss Street to hear before next month too?
Absolutely.
Right. In fact, I was up there about 2 weeks ago, and I walked by, and there was a transmission and a torque converter laying in the middle of the road that had fallen out of the back of one of their trucks. So I mean, isn't there a way of just citing the people, for some sort of a municipal ordinance to take care of the problem, as opposed to just essentially penalizing everybody else with no parking signs? Is your question?
I guess I would suggest to you that when you really look at the code, and the code is inconsistent on what's actually posted, how would you cite someone? They can say, look at the sign, that's how I parked, regardless of what the code says. But otherwise, even if the code says that, and the sign that, it's just really confusing in front of a judge, and the judge would probably throw anything out unless we make it very clear and obvious what's expected out there, both in the code and how it's posted.
But I mean, if you're parked in a roadway, which is a right-of-way, and it's not like you got a broken vehicle with a flat tire, you're actually parking in the right-of-way. I mean, you can't park on the freeway. You can't park where there's traffic, and the cop will, I'm just thinking out loud here, would probably come along and give you a ticket. Let's jump down to Church Street. In this situation, I believe it's probably starts like right here, maybe. You can park on this side, but you can't park on that side, and we have it signed appropriately. So, what's the difference? How would
the common person understand here versus over there on,
Church Street is a one-way street. You don't have traffic going in both directions.
well, but
you know.
it's still a street and they're parking on the street. Understand?
Fair enough. Hello. Well, I was just going to say that. Let the record show that Alderman Hassan has come into the meeting, and welcome. Thank you for coming.
6:35.
Oh, that's okay. Well, without beating this up, are you going to bring it back next month with a recommendation?
Well, so again, this is an item for next month. So yes.
Okay, very good. And
But yes, sir.
Mr. Webster?
Kevin, I mean, I'm looking, I see some of these pictures here are winter pictures. Can you get a plow through there?
Jonathan, could you hit your?
Oh, I apologize. Can your plows get through Smith Street if they're parking on both sides like that? Just curious, is this an area that you have issues with in plowing? Okay.
All right.
So you will also have an item for request to remove stop sign on Sharon Lane on next month's meeting.
Okay.
And then I believe you wanted to add discussion on the recorder. So you notice that Commissioner Specht is no longer on the board, and we have Jim Witt taking her place. But by doing that, it means that you need a recorder. So I would suggest you think about, and you can't do it tonight because it's not on the agenda.
Right.
So think about that for next month.
So that will also be a future agenda item, is
See.
Replacement for Becky. And my thought is that whoever would be elected or willing to take the position would finish out the current term, so it doesn't change the schedule of the renewal of the person in that position. And just from a take note standpoint, because when Jonathan was the chair, he was good enough to take his own notes and his own reports and everything. I am not as good at that as he is, and Becky agreed to actually do that report. So my expectation would be, hopefully, that anybody who would take the position would be willing to take the notes for the group. So just something to consider. I don't think there's anything else on the agenda tonight other than schedule for the next meeting would be Tuesday, June 11th, 2024. And I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Okay, that would be Clark Johnson, and a second, please. Second would be David Woznicki. I got it right this time. And we're adjourned at 6:38. Thank you.